Hey, what's up guys? I am Torvald, and today I've got you a cheap T4 Ikitursa. This thing will be capable of doing gammas and firestorms. I realize a lot of Abyssal stuff is really expensive and kind of intimidating, so I decided to put this together to show you don't have to put a lot of money into it, just to make some money and have some fun. So I've got this for you here. I know I've said in the past Ikitursa is not ideal, but for this it works. Here's the fit here: 0 implants whatsoever. You can see it's less than 600 million ISK. Those Abyssal Entropic radiation sinks are just Tech 2 rolled for maximum rate of fire to help with spooling up damage. But there's the fit right there. You can see very cheap. Running T4s, you're not risking too much. Again, 0 implants. That is my DPS with Occult loaded, and that's unspooled, so just realize that. But there it is. Bring those drugs just in case. But yeah, I like it. The other Ikitursa is very expensive. This one's nice and cheap. You can run T4s pretty reliably. So I picked out the 3 hardest rooms in my opinion. This first room is actually not the hardest one. It's just one I wanted to showcase because of the amount of damage that the Ikitursa does. So this is a room with the Abyssal Overmind, and basically I wanted to show how much DPS this thing can get up to, because in a firestorm, the Abyssal Overmind is one of those that just has a lot of hit points, and you can kind of see how much the Ikitursa ramps up to. But I start off with obviously clearing all the small stuff that could be a problem. You have drones, use them. I, ignore piloting errors in this video. I know I'm not perfect. After I made the video and I went back and watched it, I was like, man, why was I doing that? Like, I could have easily had drones killing all these little guys while I was working on the Overmind. But while you're working your way to the Overmind, you can easily take out anything before you get into Occult range. I spent a little too much time on these guys, but yeah, definitely get drones out there, use them, and then get that Occult going on the Abyssal Overmind. You will build up damage on this guy. So you start out with 520 DPS, but every time for every cycle, you gain 5% damage. So rooms like this really show how awesome the Ikitursa is, even though it's not ideal for the Abyss, and it's kind of the exact opposite of what you would want in the Abyss. It still works and it does pretty good. I'm torn on whether or not it's worth it. So if you get another ship, like if you do like a Gila or a Deimos or an Ishtar, you could do 800 DPS right off the bat, just pure DPS, no ramping up or anything like that. The Ikitursa can build up. You'll see later in this fight, the Ikitursa builds up to 1100 DPS, but it starts out at 500 DPS. So I'm not sure if it averages out. I think you are better off doing a ship that just does a flat rate of 800 DPS rather than starting out at 500 and building up to 1100, because the time spent building up with another ship, you're already there at 800 DPS or 700 DPS or whatever it is. But overall, I mean, it still works. All the sites I've ran with this thing, I never had any issues with time. You can see here, it's been 2.5 minutes and I'm just ramping up. It's been 2.5 minutes since I entered the site and just ramping up. Right here, we're at 733 DPS. We started at 520. So yeah, it's just one of those awesome little rooms to showcase the actual DPS capability of the Ikitursa. So battleship rooms for this thing are awesome. The rooms that really suck and kind of highlight the inefficiency of the Ikitursa are rooms with a lot of small stuff in it where you have to keep switching targets. You can see there 865 DPS and climbing. The Overmind's under half armor, so the ramp up is really cool. But at this time, I mean, if you had a different ship that did constant 800 DPS, he probably would have been dead already. But once you get to this point and your damage is ramped up, it's really cool to see those numbers. I mean, it's really, like me, I enjoy sitting here watching the number build. And right here is particularly cool because you break 1000 DPS and you're like, oh man, that's cool. But yeah, you can see he's going down quickly now that you've got that DPS built up. but he probably would have died quicker if you had a ship that did more DPS right off the bat, you know? Right here, we get to 1100 DPS. Right there, 1109 DPS, and the Abyssal Overmind dies. So that's pretty cool. Rooms like these battleship rooms, they really help the Ikitursa. They really, you know, they show its strengths, but at the same time, it takes time to get up to that. So, kind of a toss-up there. I'm not, like I said, I don't really know. But that first room took us about 4 minutes and 15 seconds to complete total. So not bad. Not bad at all. Especially, you know, a battleship room and an armor battleship and a firestorm room. So, you know, could be better, but still pretty good. This next room, I always consider this room the hardest room out of all the Abyssal sites, no matter what you're flying, because the Vedmax do a lot of damage. All these starving Damaviks or tangling Damaviks, ghosting Damaviks, they all, like, all together, all the E-War is just a lot to handle. So right off the bat, I decided I want to take out a tangling Damavik to try and not be held down. So ghosting Damaviks are a lot more of a problem than you would think with an Ikitursa. And the reason I say that is because ghostings reduce your overall target range, or the range on your weapons. So you'll see here, I think, I don't actually hover over it, I don't think, for a little bit, but I want to say instead of having 18, 19 kilometers on my guns right now, I only have about 11 kilometers, because those ghostings are on me, which is really crappy to deal with whenever you're trying to take out all these guys. But this is the one I actually struggled with. I definitely made some pilot errors watching this one over. However, I do not take drugs, so that's one thing to remember. If I could have alleviated some of the pain of this room by taking the drugs, but I did not do that. So yeah, that's something to think about. I do have the Exile and the Pyrolancia to help out if I needed to. But yeah, very important, get the Starving Vedmak. We do have the Cat Booster, but even then, the Starving Vedmak, his newts plus the amount of damage he does, he is the most dangerous thing on the field. And then from here, me personally, I decided that all these Damaviks were a little too much, so I, you know, to start taking them out rather than focusing on the harrowing. You know, if they were all striking Damaviks, I wouldn't have worried about them because of starving, tangling, and ghosting. That's when I decided that I needed to work on getting some of these off the field. But that Vedmak does a lot of damage, and you know, you don't want to ignore him for too long. That's for sure. You don't want to keep him out there for too long. His damage building up. I wanted to take out the tangling Damaviks. That way I could get a chance to do a little escape. So the harrowing Vedmaks, they have a range of about 22 kilometers on their weapons. And so if it gets to this point where your Ancil is about to go into reload, you're low, this guy's got a lot of damage built up on you, you want to start looking at possibly escaping. You can see I've got the Microwarpdrive. I don't have any anchorings or tanglings on me, so I have the ability to run away if I need to. And you can tell that that moment's getting close because, you know, I'm in low armor. My Ancil's about to go in the reload. It's, yeah, not a good situation to be in. So remember that when you're in these rooms. The Harrowing Vedmak rooms. The Vila Vedmaks, you shouldn't really have any problem with their damage. But here, you know, make the decision. Get out of there. Your Ancil's reloading. You can see right there at about 22 kilometers that, you know, those weapons come off me. So yeah, kind of a nice little reset there to just get that damage off you, get your stuff reloaded, and re-engage once you're good to go. Yeah, a little bit of piloting error on my at the beginning, but then once I escape and kill some of the Damaviks, everything's good from there. You can see my cap's not struggling too bad with the starving Damaviks, but I do have that cat booster to keep me going. Yeah, really pay attention to all these Vedmak or all these Damaviks and what they do. You know, with enough of these guys causing problems, you will be hindered completely in your fight against one of these Vedmaks. But now if it's just one starving Damavik or the Vedmak, not worried about it. But yeah, ghosting Damaviks, those guys are a big problem for the Ikitursa. So Remember that, especially whenever you're in the middle of a fight and you got ghostings on you. You have a couple less kilometers on your weapon range than you thought, and you don't want to lose that damage spool up in the middle of a fight, because that is your own. That's the only thing that matters with this Ikitursa, is keeping that damage spool up, keeping that damage on them. But yeah, I would consider this room one of the hardest rooms, especially in firestorms, because they do thermal damage. They do thermal damage, and they are they are armor fit. They're armor ships, so, you know, it takes longer to kill them than other sites. Gamma sites, these rooms are a little easier because the Triglavians don't benefit from having more shield. This last room I'm going to come into is just to show kind of the pains of the Ikitursa. This is a room with a bunch of lucids in them. Nothing dangerous at all. It just shows you kind of how much of a pain it is having to switch back and forth with your weapons. Obviously, you know, the main point of this thing is ramping up DPS, and then rooms like this, while they're not hard, it just kind of shows you that, you know, the weapon choice and how the Ikitursa works is not ideal, because these guys, they die relatively quickly. However, you have low DPS on them. You're not killing them as quickly as you would with something that has a lot more DPS, obviously. So yeah, with the battleship room earlier, you were able to build up DPS and get to a point where you're doing a lot more DPS. On these, you don't really get that. You're constantly doing, you know, below 700 DPS per rat, which I would say in T4s, I mean, as long as you have 600 DPS, you're good to go. Actually, I'd go with 650. The higher the DPS, the better, obviously. But I would say 650 DPS in any other ship is good. Lower than that, you're kind of, you know, you might be in a tough spot. Whether your tank's going to struggle, or they're going to nuke you out fast enough, or you just don't have enough DPS to complete it in time. Especially firestorms, where everything has hyped up armor. It's more to deal with. Yeah, you can just see on this one how long it takes to kill every individual thing, because you have such low DPS. You don't have time to spool it up. One thing that I should have talked about earlier, just thought about that. Skill points. How much skills? So me running this thing, I have Heavy Assault Cruiser 5, I have Precursor Cruiser 5, and I have the Specialization skill to level 5. So I've got max skills. I think the only skills I don't have to level 5 are the drone skills for... actually, you know what? Never mind. They're Federation Navy drones. That doesn't matter. But I've basically maxed out skills for this thing. Armor, everything. All the support skills I have maxed out. So that's one thing to consider when you're flying this fit and you're watching this video and you're thinking about doing it yourself. I do have like maxed out skills, so remember that. If your numbers aren't as good as mine, like I said, that starting out number, that starting out initial DPS number was 520. So if you fit this ship up and you don't have that number, it's because you're lacking in some of the skills and need to train some things up. Yeah, that's definitely one thing to remember. Yeah, you can see, like, this room's not taking too long. You know, it's not like, you know, completely condemning me to die. But it's just the time adds up, and that's because of the way the Ikitursa works. You know, the weapon style and everything. But I do enjoy it. It's still fun. It's a fun ship to use. It's fun running these T4s. Sometimes you don't want to jump into T5s with an expensive ship. You just want to mess around with T4s and have some fun and still make some money. So it's nice to have these cheaper builds available and all that. You know, it's nice to not worry about risking 2-3 billion-isk ship and 2 billion-isk worth of pods and whatnot. T5s are obviously the end goal. You want to be running T5s to make the most amount of money. But, you know, sometimes it's nice to just, you know, work your way into these T4s and do these for a while. You know, it's not always about min-maxing and going straight for the best for everybody. So, you know, this is just an option. I've got a couple other options for ships to run T4s that are pretty cheap. You know, below 800 million-isk, which are completely viable. I feel like this is one people like a lot, though. The Ikitursa, this is a ship people like. Boom. That right there, did y'all see that? The loot. Medium disintegration specialization skill. Yeah. 1 T4, that's like 500 million or 400 million ISK right there, whatever it is. Really good way to end the video, right? Thank y'all for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you tried this ship out, you like it, you use it. I will have more to come, and I thank you for watching, and I will see you in the abyss.